Welcome to Sisters in Service podcast. Most of you know me as a strong advocate for women veterans in being recognized not only as veterans, but also as women who are changing the world through our passion of serving, even after service. This podcast is my passion by telling all the stories of military brats, military spouses, active duty, and veterans, not to forget the veteran service organizations that help us along our transition journey. I want to thank you in advance for listening. I hope that you will join me every week. A new podcast and episode comes out every Tuesday, so I hope that you will join and I hope that you enjoy. This podcast is brought to you by Small Space Pilates. Are you ready to get fit and fabulous from the comfort of your own home? Look no further than Small Space Pilates. With live online Pilates and strength training classes, a video library, and a no perfection allowed policy, you can achieve your fitness goals without ever leaving your house. Click on the link for your complimentary week and start your journey to feeling fabulous today. Welcome, everyone, to the newest edition of the Sisters in Service podcast, Business Edition. Now, what I'm trying to do is interview people I know who have been in business for a while, whose businesses I've seen have come from minuscule to boom, okay? And my next guest went from here to in a big way. So my guest is Adam Rothenberg, and he was, someone who dreamt of making his mark in the entertainment world, and he actually made his dream a reality in 2008. And so he has been engaging with artists and celebrities from all genres of entertainment, and on his platform or on his podcast called Call Me Adam. Adam has a unique knack for making his guests feel relaxed, especially when you're in the entertainment business. That's huge. His guest list is, it's too numerous for me. We'd be here for 30 minutes. But here are a few of them. Olivia Newton-John, Kathleen Turner, Mel B, Sutton Foster, George Takei, Katie Segal, Debbie Gibson. And I could go on and on and on. So Adam has a tally of 2,200 interviews. Let me say that again, 2,200 interviews. And Adam has over 2 million visitors to his platform, his entertainment platform, in the Call Me Adam, which is a go-to entertainment destination for audiences eager to know what's next in these entertainers' lives. And he is not only that, but he is also an author. His book debut is Behind the Curtain, The Mistakes, Lessons Learned, and Triumphs of Interviewing Celebrities, was released in January 2025. And it just provides a fascinating look into the joys, the challenges, and the behind-the-scenes stories from his experiences on the other side of the microphone. So I want to say a huge welcome to Adam Rothenberg. Hi, Adam.
Hi, Kat. Thank you so much for having me today.
I'm so glad you're here, Adam. Thank you for saying yes to do this. Adam, we have known each other for a little bit. I feel like I've known you forever.
Yes.
But I've seen your business just blow up. And my first question to you is, how did you know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a great question, Kat. I'm not sure I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I definitely feel like it was once I was in the workforce, and that I was actually in my professional endeavors, that I started hearing from different colleagues all about these side hustles that they have. And then I would start seeing some of them leave the company I was working at to go pursue what was a side hustle, was now becoming a business. And it always just fascinated me. I was like, wow, I would love to be able to do that somehow. And I would probably say I guess it started to be on my mind for maybe 5 to 10 years before it actually happened for me.
That's a long time, Adam.
That I would just be thinking about it. How could I do this? How could I do this? And then my podcast got picked up by a network, and there was all this talk about the advertising that they were going to have and all this money that they were going to make. And I was like, this is the moment. I had been already doing my interviews for about 10 years at that point. And something happened where I was just like, it's either now or never. And I was listening to Pink's song, Courage, where she says, do I have the courage to change? And I listened to that all the time. And I figured out a way to just take that leap. And I left my cushioned corporate job for this unknown world of entrepreneurship. And that was in November of 2019 that I left, and I took this leap. And then the pandemic happened. And
oh, that.
oh, that. And all of that lucrative advertising that was being talked about disappeared. Because
oh my goodness.
It was advertising of Broadway shows, of a lot of things related to theater entertainment. And that was one of the first industries that got shut down. Oh my God, what do I do? I just left my corporate job. All of this advertising that I thought I was going to be making money off of is gone. What's next?
And then a certain panic sets in.
Yes.
So how did you calm yourself down from that? Did you just say, I'm going to be okay? How did you do that?
I had put a few things in place before I left my corporate job to give me a cushion, financially, to give me a cushion that I could sustain myself for a little bit. Little did I know at that time what was coming, that I would actually really need to rely on something like that. So I had that little bit of cushion, and then I started learning about working remotely, and then I was able to get some part-time work working remotely, which has helped sustain me.
And being your own cheerleader. I mean, when you're an entrepreneur, you have to be your own rah-rah section.
Yes, you do. You do. And I wish I could say that I wake up every morning and I go, oh, who's the best? We're going to make it a great day. But I don't do that every morning.
I don't think anybody does that. We should, though. We should.
We should look in the mirror and say, I am freaking fabulous. But outside of you, who does that?
Well, I don't do it every day. I do it when I'm feeling just kind of, I'm like, come on, you're the freaking fabulous Cat Corchado. Let's keep it moving. Let's go. And so I'm like, okay, I got to put one foot in front of the other. But Adam, it sounded as though you were doing it, I won't say the right way, but it sounded like you'd been thinking about it for a long time. You started doing it as a hobby, and then you kind of just transitioned into it. Do you think that was a good way, or a good way for people thinking about, especially to our listening audience, when they're transitioning out of the military, to start their business first in the military while they still have money coming in, and then eventually, by the time they get out, their business is thriving?
I would say 100%, if you can start it while you're in the military, to do that. There is a part of me that wish I stayed a little bit longer before taking the leap. But for me, this was the safest way for me to do it. Because one thing that I had learned prior to this decision was I would watch Susie Orman's show, and she's a financial advisor. And the one thing she would always say, and as I started to talk to some other entrepreneurs, one tip that they gave me was, while you're at your full-time job, make sure you're saving part of your paycheck, putting it away for when you make that leap. So I started doing that prior to when I knew I was going to leave. So that's where that cushion came from, because I would start saving that instead of spending it on something else. So maybe
that was good advice.
It was.
I mean, I think it's interesting that, and I wish someone had told me this, but I don't think I was there yet mentally. But when you get out of the military, it's like, I got to find a job. I got to find a job. I got to find a job. If someone had said, hey, why don't you start a business while you're still in, then I wouldn't have had that, that feeling of panic. When you've relied on something for 20 years and all of a sudden that paycheck is going to be going away and you think, what am I going to do? So Adam, you start your business, and was that scary for you?
Yes. I mean, I guess I always felt like my entertainment platform, when I started it in 2008, I always felt like this would be the thing that would take me somewhere. I think that it was the right avenue for me and for what I wanted to do. Ever since I was a little kid, I always wanted to work in the entertainment industry. I didn't know what that looked like as a kid. I thought I would maybe be an actor or a singer, even though I couldn't sing. I just thought I would be one of those. But then I tried my hand at stand-up comedy, and I had a lot of fun with that, but it wasn't going anywhere for me. And so I stopped doing my stand-up comedy. I always say, I sat down.
You said sit down comedy.
Yes, exactly. And then I took a year to really think about what did I want to do. And I was reading all of these interviews online on different websites. And I was like, well, I have questions I want to ask these stars and celebrities. And because I'm in New York, theater was the biggest opportunity I had. And one day at lunch, a colleague of mine said, why don't you start your own blog and ask these questions? And from there on, I figured out how to do all of that. And I started on my journey of interviewing.
So I think what I hear you saying is, really think about what it is you want to do as a business and really lean into your why.
Yes.
And also to make sure you have money coming in before you start your business. So don't leave your job. Don't just say, I'm going to get out of the military and start my business. Start it, I would say, as a military person, I would say start it 2 to 5 years prior. In fact, start it 5 years prior, because that's at the 5 to 7 year mark is when you really start getting that money, maybe before, depending on your industry. And figure out what it looks like for you. Like Adam knew he wanted to be in the entertainment industry, but now he's found its niche. So, Adam, when did you start calling yourself an entrepreneur?
I would
Or do you?
I do now. Definitely, I do now. Because in my mind, an entrepreneur is somebody who, yes, they own their own business, but they're also somebody who can set their own schedule, or they have that freedom to work as they see fit, as they need to. I mean, I do need to continue to have a side job right now where I can earn some more income, because I'm not making enough from my business to sustain a living. So I still need to work like that. But I feel like I have more freedom as to the way I can get that extra income.
Absolutely. So I think it's interesting that you started off almost immediately calling yourself an entrepreneur, and I'm still hesitant to do that. Even though the word entrepreneur and I have been married for like 2.5 years now, it still feels bizarre to call myself an entrepreneur. And whatever you call yourself, if you're in business for yourself and you're working, kudos to you, because that's hard work, I'm just going to say. So, Adam, we get into the entrepreneur world, and entrepreneurship is lonely. It is, you get all excited, and then you get to a sticking point and you go, oh crap, what do I do now? So when you got to a sticking point, whatever that is for you, what did you do? What did you say to yourself? Did you panic? Did you just say, okay, let me give myself a little time to think this through? Because a lot of entrepreneurs get to a point where they can't figure it out, or they go on Facebook, which I would never do, but that's just me. And they get a bazillion answers, of which you don't know what to choose from because there's too many choices. What did you do? What did you tell yourself when you got to a sticking point in your business?
Well, it was interesting because I feel like I've been doing my interviews since, like you said, 2008. So for 16 years, I've been doing it. I've never been at a sticking point with my interviews. I've been at a sticking point with, how do I earn an income from doing this? Because
the money part. That.
Yeah, that. And during the pandemic, there was somebody that I knew who I had interviewed was starting an entrepreneur group because he was an artist and he needed somebody. He needed to pivot, and because there were no shows to perform in, there were no concerts to be able to give in. So he had to pivot and figure out how to earn a living. And so he started a group. And if you wanted to join, he had a webinar where he talked through it. And because it was during the pandemic and because of the industry that we were, he started this group. And so from there, that's where I got the first steps of how to create a course, because at that time I thought I was going to teach people how to podcast. So I created a course and I was trying to sell it, but it wasn't going anywhere. That was also the time where podcasting was really starting to take off in a much bigger way than it already had been, because everybody was home.
Everyone was home. Let's just start a podcast.
Yeah. And then once things started to open up again, that group ended, and I felt like I still needed help because I couldn't do it on my own. And somehow through Clubhouse, I discovered a different group. And because there was somebody that I knew in that group, I decided to try it out. I went to the Clubhouse room. I went up on stage and I said something, and the person running the room was like, just gave me some great guidance that I felt like made sense for where I was at in my journey. And then I went to one of her 3-day events and I was like, this is what I need. And so I joined her group and I stayed there for about a year, and then I left and I found the current community I'm in, which is my sexy business community. And I am so grateful to be there because I have found friends like you, Kat, who are going through a similar journey. Even though we're all in different industries, we're all trying to build a business and earn a living in that business.
At that business.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what would you say is important to, when you're stuck in your business or you need help, you're not finding help on Facebook, and you finally to say, I need a mentor or I need a business coach. What do you think is the most important thing in a mentor or a business coach to get your business viable, where you're making money or you're moving in that direction?
I think the most important thing is to find a community. And I found mine. I happened to find it through the Clubhouse app. I found a room that I felt like was where I belonged. I think it was a podcasting room actually. And the people running it, I just got to know as we started to interact. And then it turned out one of the people there was Kim White, who runs the My Sexy Business community. And I started going to more of her rooms. So so my advice would be to use social media or apps to your advantage, to see who's out there, see who you align with, and take it from there. And if you have friends that are entrepreneurs, ask them if they have a business coach that they use, or if they have a business community that they're a part of. Sort of tap into the resources of the people you know.
Absolutely. I think one of the things I think is important to me is trust. I have to trust that this person or people, whomever, is going to help me move my business. And I've told you this, Adam, but, right before I got into, the mastermind that you and I are part of, I had just paid a whole lot of money for a different person, and I got zero out of it. I got zero referrals. I got zero business acumen. I got zero across the board. And right after that is when I started going into, Clubhouse, and I was, listening, and I got invited. And I almost said no. But then the more I was in Clubhouse, the more I trusted this person. They kept saying the same things. And I said, let me see what this is about. So if you're looking for a mentor, make sure it's someone you trust, someone you hear them say things all the time. You're like, wow, this person really knows, seems to know, okay, what they're talking about. And sometimes you make a mistake, and you know what? You don't know what you don't know until you do it. So after that first mentor, whoever that person was, I realized that's what I didn't want. But this is what I do want. So I think the trust is huge, and finding a group where you can bounce ideas off of and not be afraid to do that. I think that's huge too, and I think that's helped all of us is, asking, what does Kim say? Ask until you're clear.
Yeah.
I love that, because I'm a questions girl. Why this? How come that? Why can't I do it this way? Why does this vibe better?
Yes. We are in competition of who's going to ask the most questions.
That's true. So Adam, still speaking of having this group, this mentor, this business coach, I don't know what she wants to be called. So I put all of those together. Do you think you would be this far along in your business without the group, the community, or even Kim?
I don't, because I had tried for so many years before coming into this group to figure out how to make this a business, how to take those steps forward. And until now, I haven't been able to. So I don't think I would be, because also I don't know who else I would ask questions to, because I have a lot of friends in my life. I do have a lot of friends now that are entrepreneurs, but I don't necessarily know if because I'm on that path, I see that now, or it's because I'm on that path that more that are coming to my life. But I feel like before I started this entrepreneurial path, I wouldn't have even known who to ask.
I think the most important thing for me is all the things I've learned. Like you think, oh, I'm going to go into business, and people think, I'm going to go into business and wait for the money to come. I'm just going to sit back and tap my fingers and just wait. And you can't be afraid to not learn something.
Yes.
And it's going to take time to learn those things. But once you learn those things, you start here. And then as you learn things, your whole world just gets so much bigger. Yeah. And you think, oh, I get it. I see it now. So I agree. I think it's really important to have that person, that community, whatever that is, even on days when you just think, I just want to quit. I just do not want to do this anymore. And maybe you're tired. Maybe you've had some life things happen, and you just think, oh, I just I just don't want to do this anymore. And then after you speak with your, your community, you're like, okay, I'm back in.
Yes. Yes. And I just want to say, it's not like I didn't have people before I started on the entrepreneurial path to ask questions, because there were people I did ask questions to, but I don't feel like it's the same kind of information and questions I would be asking, or the same kind of information I would be getting where I'm getting it now. So it's not like I didn't have people to help me with my, at the time, my entertainment platform when I first started, it was a blog. And, I was lucky if I got 100 visitors a week when I first started. So it's not like I didn't have people to help me figure out how to do things in that sense. But in terms of making it a business, I think where I'm at now is where I need to be on that path of this.
And I think it's also important to, when you have a community or a mentor, that initially your questions are very simple, but then as you get better at being an entrepreneur, you ask more in-depth questions.
Yes.
Like I find that our questions are very, before it's like, well, how do I do a social media post? I don't know what's involved with that. But that's the first layer. It's like peeling an onion. You get one layer, then there's another layer, you learn that layer. And I think even people who've been in business for a long time, I think if they're smart, they're still learning. Yes. I think if you stop learning, you stop growing in your business.
Yes, I agree. You never stop. If you stop learning, I feel like you're going to go out of business. And the ones who keep being inquisitive and keep learning and keep wanting to learn new things, you're going to continue to grow. Let
me ask you about your podcast. Okay. I want to ask you if your podcast you feel has helped your business.
I think it has. I can't specifically say a definitive example of how it has helped my business, but I do feel like it helps because it taps into a different audience. There are some people who love listening to podcasts. Now, some of my podcast episodes I've also recorded as a video interview. So there are some people, they don't want to watch a video. They don't have time to watch a video, but they have time to listen to a podcast because they're commuting to work, they're going for a long drive, they're out walking. Some people listen to a podcast while they clean the house. There's other times where you can do that because you can listen to it. You don't have to pay attention to the actual video. So I do feel like it helps people find out about my interviews in a different way because it's an audio version. And I also feel like there's more ways for it to be discovered because it's on all these different platforms. It's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Spotify, it's on Amazon, it's on iHeartRadio. And I just feel like you never know what somebody's going to search for that is going to maybe bring up one of my interviews. Maybe somebody that I interviewed, they're a fan of too, and therefore they're going down that rabbit hole of I want to listen to every interview they've ever done. And boom shakalaka, they find my podcast because of that search.
Absolutely. I also think there's crossover. So you have your website and people from your website hear your podcast, or people from your podcast find out about your website. And then you write a book. Let's talk about your book, Adam. Okay. What inspired you to write a book? Or were you voluntold like we were? Yes, that book right there.
So I will say I was partially voluntold to write a book, but it was actually the planting of that seed was actually in one of the previous entrepreneurial groups that I was talking about. And one of the members in there said to me, why don't you write a book about all the life lessons you learned from your interviews? And all of a sudden, a light bulb went off of, oh, wow, that's a great idea. And then it was always in the back of my mind. And then as I became more engulfed in the My Sexy Business community, other people in that community, in our community,
We're writing books.
And people were starting to also talk to me about the impact of my interviews and what I learned from them. And that all started to turn the wheels of what kind of book could I write? So I feel like I found a very happy medium for myself. And it was a story that I could easily tell, which basically, I talk about the joys and the pitfalls of what happened from my perspective during my interviews. But I feel like the book is a book for a wide variety of people. So if you're thinking about starting your own interviewing journey, I feel like I have information in the book. I tell some stories of some of the tech glitches I had, or scheduling conflicts, things that can come up that were a great lesson for me, that helped inform the way I conducted interviews from there on out. I also tell a lot of great behind the curtain stories, like I said, about what happened during the interview from my perspective. So if you're somebody who likes to get those behind the scenes stories about the world of entertainment, there's stories in there for you. So I just feel like there's a lot of, I just lost my train of thought.
That's all right. It sounds like you were going to say that there's a lot of information in there that you normally wouldn't get in a podcast episode,
Yes.
or even, you look back and go, wow, that was happening while he was interviewing, those kind of things,
Yes. The stories I tell, you won't get from watching or listening or reading one of my interviews.
Right.
So,
because we don't want anybody to see all the messiness that goes.
Right. Exactly. And that's why I call it behind the curtain, because I am peeling back the curtain. Out of my 2,200 interviews, I chose specifically 23 stories to share, because I felt like right now these were the 23 stories that influenced my journey of conducting interviews in the biggest way. And I'm not saying that some stories that I didn't tell didn't have an influence, but as I was putting this book together, these are the ones that came into my head first. So I'm not saying there's not going to be a second book, but
stay tuned.
Yes, stay tuned. Stay tuned. But what I like about the book too is that the stories aren't only about my mistakes and lessons learned. There's a few stories in there about the amazing experiences I had interviewing some of my entertainment idols that I grew up admiring, or that I loved as an adult. And there was no lesson there, or there was no mistake that made. It was just a really great experience. And I get to talk about that amazing experience. And I feel like it's coming from a fan perspective in that sense, because it was like, oh my gosh, I got to
interview this person. And that's exciting. I think what I hear you say, whether you're a podcaster, whether you're starting a business, you've already started a business, you're thinking of starting a business, you have got to be flexible, like backbend flexible.
100%. I actually talk about the importance of flexibility in two of my chapters, because each time that flexibility made such a difference in the outcome of a really great interview. And Pat, I just have to say, I love the way that you summarize all of my thoughts. So I need you to come, I need you to come around with me everywhere I go and be my interpreter, so everybody can understand what I'm talking about.
I'd be glad to, Adam. I'd be glad to. So I know in your interviews, the last two interviews that you did were some pretty how can I say, not high end, but names that we all know. Do you want to talk about those two interviews?
Are you talking about the Righteous Brothers?
And you just did one with, is it out yet? The one you did with, do I dare say it?
Or just say it.
The newest one.
With Nancy McKean?
Yes.
Yes, who played Joe on The Facts
I
of
didn't
Life.
want to spill the beans if it wasn't already out.
It is. It just got published this week that I don't know when this episode is going to go out, but the week that Kat and I recorded this episode, that it is the week it went out. So yes, it is.
That's
out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think Nancy McKean was my favorite character on The Facts of Life.
Oh my
She's
God,
my fave.
Yeah. She is the absolute nicest. And this was actually the second time I got to interview her about the same project, because she was in an off-Broadway play called Pen Pals in 2024. And now the show is coming back off Broadway and she's kicking off the start of the show again. And so I got to talk to her about the project again, but I was able to go much deeper because I had seen the show from the last time I interviewed her to this time. I had seen the show. So I was able to come at it with a different angle.
So last question. I think I know the answer to this one. Who is the ultimate interview for you?
Who is the one person I would love to interview out of everybody in the whole wide world? That is the one, the only Dolly Parton.
I knew that. I just wanted to hear you say it. So I think that, when we're talking about entrepreneurship, you know where you are, where you are in your business, and you have to know where you want to go, not only this quarter, this year, but down the road. You have to be able to have a vision. What does your business look like in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? And so many people quit right before they're going to make this huge impact. So 5 to 7 years is pretty much, maybe sooner. Adam has been just, I'm going to say it, kicking ass and taking names. I'm saying it. It's my podcast. I can say it. And I'm so proud of you. I know that may not mean anything, but I've seen you struggle. And I've seen you come through to where you are now. So I want to tell you, I want to be like you when I grow up, Adam.
Thank you, Kat.
Congratulations on all of your success, because I've watched you go through it. If you had one word of advice for someone who's on the fence for starting their business, what would that be?
I would say to take the leap, but find the way to do it that makes you comfortable. I'm just going to say, for me, I'm not the kind of person that could just wake up one morning, give notice at my job that I'm leaving, and go start my business. I needed to have some kind of safety.
Security. Yes.
So I always say I feel like I took a safe jump, because I didn't know what was going to happen. But I knew that if it didn't work out and I had to go back to the corporate world, I would be okay for a little bit. So you just have to find the way to do it that you feel the most comfortable, and that it would be the safest move for you. Because there's a lot of people out there who are big risk takers, and they can
that's
just
not me.
Caution to the wind. It's not me either. So if that's not you, just find a way to do it that you feel comfortable.
Right. I'm not the girl that jumps in the deep end of the pool and learns how to swim. That's not me.
Right.
But it also looks different for different people. Like when I first started my podcast was 2 times a month because I wasn't sure I could do weekly. So maybe 2 times a month is too much. Try it once a month. See if you like it. Do it. For so many people just quit. They do it and they quit because there's a lot of work. But you have to understand the process. Once you get used to the process, then it's like cake. You just do it and it's done. And that's how it is for business. It's hard at first, you guys. I'm not saying it's not worth it. It is worth it. But you have to know what your business is going to look like. When I first started, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know what it looked like until someone, again, Kim White of the My Sexy Business, said, hey, and she gave me this idea, which was how Small Space Pilates started. So Adam, thank you so much for being here today, for doing this with me and spending your time, because I know time is valuable. For anyone else, I hope you got some tidbit of business, meaning some form of how you're going to start, or maybe you've already started and you pivot just a little bit from something you've heard today. I'm going to have other business owners on, and you might hear something different, but you know what? We're all in business and it all works for us individually. So, I'm going to say, please stay safe, take care of each other. Until next time, and please remember, it is never too late to start your impossible.